This week in IT, Microsoft 365 Copilot has been caught reading confidential emails that it was supposed to ignore, an alarming privacy blunder. Chinese hackers exploited a backdoor in Dell's backup software for 18 months without anybody noticing. And as Broadcom hikes VMware prices, IT leaders are looking to reduce reliance on it. So stay tuned for all the latest news. Welcome to This Week in IT, the show where I talk about everything connected to Microsoft 365, Azure, and Windows. Today's episode is sponsored by our friends at Chaosoft. It seems that AI is hardly ever out of the news these days, and of course there's been a lot of discussion over the last few months about this AI bubble that people are predicting, that companies are not seeing the return on investment that they're expecting, and there are all sorts of issues with whether companies really trust AI to work with its sensitive data. So this story comes at quite a bad time for Microsoft. According to Bleeping Computer this week, a bug was discovered in Microsoft 365 Copilot, and it essentially summarizes emails that have been marked as confidential in the sent and the draft folders of your Outlook that were marked confidential by Microsoft's own data leakage prevention system, DLP. So obviously you don't want AI automatically summarizing these emails. The whole point of labeling this information as confidential is to make sure, of course, that it doesn't get into the hands of people that are not supposed to read it, but that also includes AI agents and Copilot. So this is a big failure. So it's interesting that IT admins were actually the ones who noticed this problem, and they notified Microsoft at the end of January. And there's been a fix rolling out since the beginning of February for this bug, Microsoft is calling it, and they're monitoring the rollout of this bug and contacting the organizations that reported the problem to make sure that it's actively being resolved. It's thought that this issue has been present for at least a month, but Microsoft doesn't know what the scale of it is, so they're investigating how many organizations might have been affected while making sure that the patch that they've rolled out is actually working. So while it seems to have affected, apparently a small number of organizations who've actually reported it at least, I expect that lots of organizations have been affected and just didn't notice. Of course, you have to have DLP, you have to be marking these emails as confidential. So if you don't have that system and you're not using it, then this simply doesn't affect you. So this brings in wider concerns about trusting AI with sensitive information, or could this be an issue with Microsoft's DLP not consistently applying labels where it should? I don't know. Microsoft isn't saying exactly what the problem was. They just said it's a bug in the code. Whether that was a bug with DLP or whether it was a bug in Copilot, it's not entirely clear, but obviously this raises questions. Now, while this is quite alarming in many respects, I think we have to also understand that all IT systems have bugs, and this is clearly quite a critical bug, but AI, security, merging these two things together, it's all still in its infancy. So I know this is going to get people very angry in the comments, but I would give Microsoft a little bit of leeway on this. It seems that they've jumped to really fix this problem as quickly as they can, and to understand how widely spread it is. So at least we can be thankful for that. So if you're using DLP with Copilot in Microsoft 365, do check whether you are getting these summaries of emails. Let me know whether you've experienced this problem or any other security related problems with Copilot in the comments below. I'd love to know. Before I go into the next story, I've got a quick favor to ask you. About 72% of the people who watched last week's video weren't subscribe to their channel. Now, as we go live today, we're on about 14,088 subscribers. So I really want to thank everybody who has subscribed and pushed us over that 14,000 mark. That's great. I'd love it if we could push us over the 14,100 mark this week. So if you want to see these weekly news updates from petrica.com, please subscribe to the channel and don't forget to hit the bell notification to make sure that you don't miss out on the latest uploads. This week in the news has been reports about a security issue issue with Dell's RecoverPoint for VMs. So this is essentially a backup and recovery system that allows you to recover your virtual machines on, I assume, Dell hardware. I don't know much about RecoverPoint itself, but it seems that in the web service for RecoverPoint, which is based on Apache Tomcat, there was a hard-coded admin credential which allowed Chinese hackers to essentially get root-level access to it and use it to plant their own backdoors. So yeah, hard-coded admin level credentials in software is probably, not the way you should be going. And it's surprising that security reviews of the code didn't alert the security team in RecoverPoint to that. But well, okay, that's a fairly major mistake on Dell's part. So this was a Chinese state-linked hacking group. They were able to then, of course, plant backdoors onto these systems. Exactly what access they got to them, I'm not sure, but I think we can assume that potentially they would have been able to get access to the virtual machines themselves, and they were using various different pieces of malware or backdoors to do this, and they were gradually upgrading to more sophisticated backdoors that they were able to plant on these systems. And part of the reason they were doing that is because the more sophisticated the code they were able to deploy there, the harder they were for security systems to detect. So they were able to go unnoticed on systems for up to 18 months. Nobody noticed that this was happening. At the moment, we know that fewer than a dozen organizations were apparently breached by these hackers, but of course the scale of this is currently unknown, so it could have affected a much wider range of organizations. If you're a RecoverPoint customer, then Dell has already issued a patch and has advised customers to apply some urgent mitigations. Government systems must be patched by the 21st of February if you're in the US. That has already been mandated. So this could be a significant problem, so do check your servers if you're relying on RecoverPoint. We've covered this story a few times before over the last couple of years. We all know that Broadcom purchased VMware and they've been raising prices. That's been worrying organizations, but there hasn't been the mass exodus from VMware that many pundits predicted when Broadcom started to raise the prices. But what is happening through information that we have and that's been reported in the press is we know that IT leaders are now looking to essentially diversify their investments in virtualization systems and are starting gradually to move to other systems like Hyper-V or the Windows Server Azure Stack and some of the alternatives to the enterprise VMware products that are currently used in the market. Now, the point of this is really to try and avoid lock-in, because the worry is that the prices of VMware will continue to rise in the future and that they'll be trapped in a position where they have no choice but to pay. So the idea is to try and diversify a little bit so that they can do this in advance and are not trapped by prices that Broadcom might impose in the future. Because if you can imagine, you've got some of your workloads on Hyper-V, some on VMware, maybe some on another system. You then have the knowledge and ability to hopefully quickly move your workloads between those systems as well, should one of them, for instance, decide to quickly and rapidly raise prices. So this information was based on a survey that questioned more than 300 large IT firms, and 89% of them cited VMware's price hikes as a major disruption post the Broadcom acquisition. Other worries included the future direction of Broadcom at 85%, support quality at 78%, forced subscription licensing at 72%, and product bundling or other partner program changes. So that's what has led organizations to start exploring alternatives. So apparently 86% of companies report they're actively cutting back on VMware, and workloads are moving either to public cloud services like AWS, Azure, of course, that's 72% of all migrations, or to Microsoft's Hyper-V Azure Stack, that accounts for about 43%. So these are, if you like, kind of strategic exit plans should the worst happen with Broadcom and VMware. So this is something that maybe your organization should be thinking about if you're 100% in on VMware at the moment. If you found this video useful, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up because it helps to grow the channel. I'm going to leave another video on the screen now about an Outlook add-in that caused up to 4,000 Microsoft accounts to be hacked, so do check that out. I'd like to thank the sponsors of this video again, Chaosoft, but that's it from me for this week, and I'll see you next time.